Imagine a situation where just one vanished species can save entire continents. These animals completely disappeared from the wild in the 60s, but today they're coming back to the most lifeless corners of the planet. And a real miracle is happening. Barren deserts turn green again, ecosystems wake up, and land that was considered dead starts to breathe once more. This is the story of an extinct wild horse species and how it is changing the fate of massive regions. Subscribe to the channel. There is a lot of interesting stuff ahead. Picture a landscape that feels more like Mars. Red clay, sand, and not a blade of grass all the way to the horizon. In summer, the heat climbs to 104 degrees, and in winter, the cold hits -22. The wind kicks up dust storms so huge they can be seen from space. That is exactly what the Dzungarian Basin looked like 20 years ago.
Inner Mongolia and Xinjiang are endless rocky deserts. In places like this, life barely flickers. But many of these areas did not become this way on their own. People did it. Decades of uncontrolled development turned once thriving steppes into dead space. Agriculture squeezed everything it could out of the soil. Industry poisoned the ground with chemicals. Millions of livestock trampled the grass down to the roots. Desertification kept accelerating, and it felt impossible to stop. Every year, the desert swallowed thousands of square kilometers of living land. China tried to fight this disaster. Desert greening programs that the whole world knows about really did deliver results. But trees alone were not enough. And then scientists remembered an extraordinary animal that once lived on these lands. The Przewalski horse, the only truly wild horse on the planet. These animals are unique by nature. Unlike ordinary horses that live on farms, the Przhevalsky horse never submitted to humans. It evolved on its own path and kept the traits of a genuinely wild animal. It has a short, upright mane, powerful legs, an alert gaze, and a spirit that people never managed to break. These horses were named after the Russian explorer Nikolai Przewalski, who described them in 1878. Mongolians called them taki, meaning spirit. And it is true, there was something mystical and ancient about them, like they came to us from another era. Just 100 years ago, Przewalski horses roamed the steppes of Central Asia. Their home was Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and northwest China. They adapted perfectly to life in brutal conditions. Terrifying temperature swings from +104 to -40, scarce food, and a lack of water did not scare them. These horses knew how to survive. But by the end of the 19th century, serious problems began. The first and most obvious reason was hunting. Wild horse meat was not considered a delicacy, but in hard times it was highly valued. Droughts and wars pushed people to kill animals, and horses that moved in open herds were simply too easy a target. Every year had more weapons, and the horses had fewer chances to make it. Their natural caution stopped helping because a bullet flies faster than any horse. Herds thinned out and retreated deeper and deeper into the most remote, hard-to-reach places. Then a new disaster arrived: livestock. Herding expanded, and the steppes started getting settled more intensively. Sheep, goats, and cattle flooded every pasture. They ate the same grass and contaminated the water. There was simply no room left for the wild horses. But that was not all. Domestic horses sometimes bred with wild ones, which damaged the purity of the bloodline. Hybrids lost crucial survival instincts. They did not know how to find water during drought or how to escape predators in winter. Pure Przewalski horses became catastrophically rare. At the same time, their habitat was being destroyed. Agriculture advanced on every front. Fields, roads, and fences cut the steppe into pieces. Ancient migration routes were blocked. The territories these horses had traveled for thousands of years became unreachable. Przhevalsky horses needed enormous open spaces. They had to move freely in search of water and forage, especially during drought. Losing that freedom became a death sentence. Groups trapped in small areas died of starvation. Climate zones appeared where even such tough animals could not find food. Natural chains collapsed. First, plants disappeared, then herbivores, and then predators. The horses had nowhere to run. The desert surrounded them from every side, tightening the ring. The situation was finished off by the population being broken into fragments. The remaining small groups of horses lived isolated from one another. There was no gene flow. In every herd, birth rates fell, and inbreeding made the animals weaker against disease. Just one brutal winter or one outbreak could wipe out an entire group. Without fresh blood, populations slowly died out from degeneration. Foals were born weak and often did not survive their first year. Mortality rose and the extinction spiral tightened. By the middle of the 20th century, it was clear the species was disappearing. In 1959, an international stud book was created. It recorded every zoo horse with a full pedigree. The main goal was to preserve at least some genetic diversity. But it did not save the wild horses. They were last seen in nature at the end of the 60s. Scientists combed the steppes of Mongolia and China looking for any sign at all, but it was hopeless. In 1969, the Przewalski horse was officially declared extinct in the wild. Every remaining animal on Earth lived in zoos. There were only a few dozen in Europe, America, and Asia. All of them came from a tiny group of horses captured early in the century. The fate of the species hung by a thread, but those captives gave it a chance to come back. At the same time, an astonishing fact came to light. After the horses disappeared, the steppes started dying even faster. Grass stopped growing the way it should. Sands began to shift and bury the last scraps of green. Predators also left these lands. It turned out Przewalski horses did not just live in the steppe, they worked for it. They filled the role no one else could take over. These horses were real engineers of nature. Their presence supported life all around them. Without them, the system broke. That discovery changed everything. Different countries launched programs to return the species to the wild. China approached the task with serious commitment. Its western lands, where herds once ran, had turned into a dead desert, and the authorities decided to bring life back there together with the horses. In 1986, a breeding center opened in Xinjiang. The place looked terrifying because there was nothing but sand and rock in every direction. But this is where the revival began.
From zoos in Germany, England, and the United States, they brought 8 stallions and 10 mares. Of course, they did not release them straight into the wild steppe. For zoo animals, that would have been certain death. A long adaptation began. The horses were kept in huge enclosures that looked like the wild. There, they learned to find food and water on their own, which is vital in a desert. Scientists tracked their every step. The horses were taught to fear danger, and ancient instincts were awakened in them. Gradually, the herd grew. In 1987, they brought 18 more animals from America and Europe. Help from the whole world was the key. Zoos in different countries sent horses and money. The stud book helped match pairs to avoid disease. Every new horse was worth its weight in gold. And then, in 2001, a historic event happened. The first group was released into the wild in the Kalamaili Reserve. An extinct species returned to its ancestral land after 32 years of oblivion. The first years were a brutal test. Horses raised in semi-freedom ran into real wilderness. They didn't know the terrain well and struggled to find grazing areas. Predators started hunting them, and harsh winters killed the weak. But the survivors adapted. They learned from their mistakes and passed the experience on to their young. Foals born in the wild were completely different. They knew this land from birth and became real wild Mustangs. New releases continued on a regular basis. In May 2024, another 18 animals were sent to the reserve. In total, 146 horses were released. And that is when nature started working miracles. The land around the reserve began changing before people's eyes. Horses worked like living seeders. They eat a lot of grass, but seeds are not fully digested. Traveling dozens of miles, the horses dropped those seeds along with manure, which is excellent fertilizer. Where bare sand used to lie, green shoots now push through. Over time, these patches merge into meadows. The seeds get nitrogen and phosphorus right from the start. Even in poor soil, they get a chance to survive. Manure creates oases of fertility in the middle of a dead desert. Imagine the scale of the work done by 146 horses. Each one spreads thousands of seeds every single day. Over a year, one horse can reseed dozens of square miles, and an entire herd can change a landscape beyond recognition. But it is not just digestion. Seeds cling to the animals' coats, manes, and tails. Horses work like taxis for plants, carrying them to new places. Where a horse walked, grass can grow a year later. Once plants show up, other residents follow. Beetles, mice, and birds move into the green patches. After them come foxes and birds of prey. An ecosystem starts rebuilding itself, brick by brick. The horses' impact does not end there. They do not eat grass the way livestock does. Sheep, for example, mill around in one spot and chew everything down to the roots, leaving bare ground. The consequences of that kind of grazing can be seen across Asia. Wild Przewalski horses behave differently. They fear predators, so they keep moving. The herd grazes here a bit, then runs over there, then comes back, but to a different patch. As a result, grass never disappears completely anywhere. Plants have time to recover while the herd is elsewhere. Roots stay intact and new shoots grow fast. The pasture does not die, it lives for years.
This style of feeding creates a mottled structure in the steppe. Areas of tall grass alternate with short turf and bare ground. It is not chaos. It is a perfect home for different species. Some rodents need tall grass to hide. Birds like to build nests in open spots, and insects need different plants. A patchy pasture like this gives everyone a place to live. Scientists have proven that where Przewalski horses live, biodiversity is twice as high. There are more flowers, butterflies, and birds. Nature becomes richer and more resilient to disasters. There is one more important detail. Horses do not rip grass out by the roots. They bite it off cleanly. The root system stays alive. For the plant, that is a signal to grow fast. That is why even a large herd will not turn the steppe into a desert. On the contrary, proper grazing makes grass grow thicker. Under the horse's hooves, the pasture only gets better. Horses also affect nature by becoming food themselves. While there are few of them, predators barely touch them. But as the herd grows, that will change. Wolves, the main sanitation crew of the steppes, hunt hoofed animals. An adult horse is dangerous for them, but weak or old animals will become prey. When there are many horses, wolves will return to these lands. And wolves change the world around them too. They keep herbivores from multiplying too much and remove sick individuals. That strengthens the population. The wolves' influence ripples outward through the whole ecosystem. It becomes a chain reaction. Horses plant grass. Grass feeds insects and hares. Those attract foxes, and horse herds draw wolves in behind them. The circle closes, and nature runs like clockwork. And this plan works. By the end of 2024, there were already 534 horses living in Xinjiang. That is an excellent result for a species that simply was not here 30 years ago. China understands it cannot keep all the animals in one place. If disaster strikes, they could all die. So new groups are being created in different regions. For example, in Gansu province, they are already preparing the next batches for release. The scientific work does not stop for a single day. Researchers track the animal's health and behavior. Every new release is planned with past mistakes in mind. It is hard work that demands patience. China's experience helps its neighbors too. Mongolia and Kazakhstan are also bringing the horses back home. Chinese data helps them move faster and more efficiently. Mongolia started this process first, back in the 90s. In 1992, the first horses were brought from Europe to Hustai-Nuru National Park. It was a major international operation. The Prague Zoo played the leading role. That is where the global record of every Przewalski horse is maintained. For transporting animals to Mongolia, they even used military aircraft. It was that important. Over time, new habitats appeared in Mongolia. Today, fully wild populations live there. Where it used to be a miserable few dozen animals, now more than 1,000 horses roam free. No one feeds these horses or treats them. They live like real wild animals. They are born and die in the steppe under the laws of nature. The project succeeded, and the horses became the masters of the Mongolian plains again. Kazakhstan took its own path. The first horses were brought to Alten Emel National Park in 2003. There were only 10 of them. By 2015, the herd had grown only to 40 animals. That was a weak result. So in 2024, a new powerful project was launched. The Prague and Berlin zoos joined forces again, along with local specialists. The goal was ambitious. In June 2024, the first batch of 7 animals arrived. A year later, they added the same number again. The plan is to release about 45 horses into the steppe by 2029. A smaller number will not provide the genetic diversity they need. The group will be weak and prone to illness. And 45 animals, that is the minimum after which the herd can grow on its own. But the most unexpected place for Przewalski horses turned out to be the Chernobyl exclusion zone. After the 1986 disaster, people left and nature took over. These horses had never lived in those forests before. But in 1998, scientists decided to take the risk. From the Askania Nova Reserve, they brought 31 horses there. The conditions were terrifying. Radiation, ruined villages, and wolves. It seemed like the horses would die, but they not only survived, they started reproducing. The first years were hard, but then it took off. In 2003, 67 animals were counted in the zone. By 2018, there were already 150. And by the 2025 data, about 200 horses live there, and radiation does not stop them. In Chernobyl, the horses do the same job they do in the steppe. They eat grass and keep the forest from closing in too densely. Thanks to them, open clearings remain where other rare animals live. The story of these horses proves something incredible. Even a species that fully disappeared can be brought back. And it comes back not as a museum exhibit, but as an essential part of nature that changes the world around it. These horses do not just live, they work. They restore ruined land, plant forests, and feed predators. They turn dead deserts into blooming gardens, and that is a scientific fact. Of course, the danger has not passed yet. Worldwide, there are about 2,000 of these horses, and only half of them live in the wild. That is very little. Any epidemic could wreck everything. That is why the work is intense. New centers are opening, new lands are being prepared. Geneticists freeze animal cells in case of catastrophe. Every life counts. The Przewalski horse has traveled from total collapse to a triumphant return. It is proof that even in a hopeless situation, you cannot give up. Nature can be helped if you give it a chance. And sometimes that chance is an animal we almost lost forever. Subscribe to the channel and make sure to share your thoughts in the comments.